We are paid, that's all. We are God.
Hey guys! This is part 5 of What If Naruto is Completely Blind. Naruto has been keeping dangerous secrets for years. A long-forgotten dream that just won't die, an ally he shouldn't know and a friend no one thought he had, are what keep him going. Graduating is the least of his problems. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 14, Memorandum. Beep. 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 I shifted uncomfortably on the hospital bed. Was Sasuke alright? Kakashi-sensei had somehow gotten us both in the same room, so I could hear his heart monitor beeping steadily whenever my own wasn't going off. Stupid thing was driving me crazy, mine, that is. Sasuke's was a reassurance he was alive. But aside from that, I had no idea how he was doing. Beep. 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 That beeping was really getting to me. So annoying. In flawless time with my heartbeat, which I could hear perfectly fine, thank you. Beep. 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 I pricked my ears interestedly as someone started shouting from downstairs, trying to pick out who it was and b, what their problem was. Beep. 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 But that stupid machine was driving me crazy. I growled and shook my fist at it uselessly, temporarily ignoring the shouting as I glared at the continuous, obnoxious beeper. Then I sighed tiredly and leaned back against my pillows, shutting out my own heart monitor and listening to Sasuke's. Somehow, the beeps for that one were slightly different, a fraction of a higher pitch, and somehow, that made all the difference between annoying distraction and reassurance. Beep. 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 I heard the shouting start up again, right outside the door, but a little quieter. It must have been quieter, because I still couldn't pick what was being said. But when Kakashi-sensei's voice came into my comprehension, saying, "Irika, before you go in there you need to know." I put my fingers in my ears and braced. Surprisingly, there was no instant headache for me, and I dropped my hands cautiously, ready to clap them over my ears if the shouting started. But there was a telltale thud, and the door just opened quietly, and I grinned at the two chakras that had just come in. "Hi, Kakashi-sensei." "Hi, Irika-sens." I was cut off by a heavy weight suddenly attaching itself to my chest, hugging me tightly, and I flinched back for a second until I identified the mass, and then relaxed into his grip, bringing my arms up to hug him back. He ran his fingers through my hair and I shivered at the contact. He was rocking back and forth slightly, shaking with silent sobs that I could hear faintly catching in his chest. "Naruto, oh no, Naruto," he whispered frantically, and several sobs escaped, making me go still as the tears that accompanied them landed on my shoulder. This was by far the worst reaction yet. "Oh Naruto." Irika-sensei's sobs had intensified, and I hugged him awkwardly, flinching at the tears soaking into my clean shirt. It's okay, Irika-sensei, don't cry," I stammered out, patting him on the back and looking over at Kakashi helplessly. "Please don't cry, it's okay, don't cry." He let out a strangled sob and ruffled my hair again, biting back his tears. "I guess I shouldn't see cry," he choked out, pulling me closer. I hadn't thought it would be possible, and sobbing aloud again. I looked at Kakashi again, desperately hoping for help. I had trouble dealing with my own random emotions, let alone other people's. Sasuke's were easier to predict than my own, but he could read me pretty well, so that wasn't so bad. Wait. Off on a tangent. Kakashi, help me. I remembered another reason I had wanted someone else to be in the damn room. "Hey, Kakashi-sensei, is Sasuke okay?" I asked. He seemed mildly surprised by the question. "Yes, Naruto, he's fine. You can hear the heart monitor." I sighed, resisting the urge to roll my eyes, having learned it would hurt. "I know that, but is he okay? Is he sleeping peacefully or is he in pain? Does he look upset or like the curse mark is bothering him? Does he look like he's going into shock? Have any of his cuts reopened? Is he okay?" I could feel Kakashi smiling slightly and shaking his head at me. "He's sleeping quietly. He's not in any pain. He's not upset. The curse mark isn't hurting him. He's not going into shock, and all of his cuts are fine. He is okay, Naruto, I promise." I grinned weakly. "Thank you." Oh. Hey, Arika-sensei. I said, hoping to distract the man from his weeping. My respect for you has gone up. You decked Kakashi-sensei. That was so cool. He sniffed and said, obviously confused, what? I heard you outside, whack, that was so awesome. You are so cool. You do realize I let him hit me? Kakashi said, sounding amused. Yeah, you keep telling yourself that, sensei, I smirked, before twitching and focusing in on the chakra that was approaching. Hey, the doc's coming back. I hate hospitals, that reminds me, when can I get out of here, sensei? Kakashi was saved from having to answer by the doctor arriving. Hello, Hataki-san, Yumeno-san, he said politely. Now, Uzumaki, how are you feeling? I shrugged uncomfortably, fidgeting. Meh. Kinda bored. And I can't feel my feet, but I've been sitting on them for the last half hour, so it's not unexpected. Maybe I shouldn't sit on them. I shifted, pulling my feet out, and winced as the pins and needles sensation started up, burning tingles running through my deadened muscles. Cammy, I hated that feeling. Wait, I'd been talking to the doctor. Really bored. I hate sitting around for so long, it was bad enough for the written exam thing. Oh, that reminds me, Kakashi-sensei, when's the third exam? I think it's in a month, but… I was kinda distracted at the time, so I didn't hear everything that was said. I grinned sheepishly as my Jounin-sensei sighed. There's a month in which the finalists recover from the previous exams and train, yes. The doctor interrupted, apparently not happy with some aspect of the conversation. Now then, I'm going to take off your bandages so we can clean that cut, okay? Just hold still. I promise it won't hurt, says you, I grumbled, but I didn't try to fight him when cool hands brushed against my head and the gauze started to come loose. Dry, cool air brushed at my face, and I flinched at the doctor touching the skin near the butterfly clips holding the edges of the gash together. Even though the clips didn't hurt anymore where they had bitten into the skin, they had hurt enough originally to make me touchy about them. I couldn't help the instinctive wince as the cold cloth came into contact with my skin, and as the doctor very gently began to dab at the slash, I went very still and stiff, waiting for the pain to kick in as the disinfectant started working and the cloth aggravated the diced-up nerves. But, nothing. The doctor must have noticed my surprise, as he began to explain while cleaning the cut so gently I could barely feel it. For such a delicate area we prefer to use painless disinfectants. There's enough sensitive damage here already without adding something like hydrogen peroxide to the mix. What the heck is hydrogen peroxide? I frowned mentally. Wasn't that hair dye? Or something like that? Before I really noticed, the doctor was done with my eyes, having wiped away all of the bloody residue, and firmly bandaging them once more with clean gauze. Now Uzumaki, we'll have to change your bandages twice a day to make sure your injury doesn't get infected, okay? Even when I'm not here, there will be a nurse in the room all the time, even if you can't hear her, he said. If you need something or want to ask a question, just ask her. Before anyone goes anywhere, can I just ask when the heck I can get out of here? I interrupted. I'm bored. Seriously. This is not the most interesting of places, and the disinfectant is killing my nose. The doctor hesitated. We'll just have to wait and see, he said evasively, and I glared at him. Not the answer I wanted to hear. Now say goodbye, visiting hours are over and I think Hataki-san has something important he needs to do. I'd like to have a word with him myself. Kakashi put one hand on my shoulder, saying lightly, I'll come by tomorrow, Naruto, just get some sleep. Yes, Sasuke will be okay when you wake up in the morning. Don't worry, hey? Irika hugged me again and gently ruffled my hair. I'll drop by tomorrow, too, before school starts, okay, Naruto? Just get some rest. Why does everyone keep saying that to me? I grumbled. Attention, Hataki Kakashi. Memo. Yo, Kakashi. That was wicked awesome, your genin totally kicked arse in the exam. And blind. What are you teaching those kids? Signed. Shiranui Genma. I listened to the music someone had put on in the corner of the room. The loss of the annoying beeping of my heart monitor, they had decided I wasn't going to collapse into shock again, was calming, and I had always liked music, so I was actually fairly content, just sitting here listening intermittently to Sasuke's heart beeper and the CD player. I was starting to feel slightly tired, but not in the way that meant I should go to sleep. Just tired. It was weird, being so tired, but not sleepy. Maybe I should go check Kyubi, see what the furball's up to down there, and figure out what the hell happened. I shifted slightly, pulling my legs under me so I was sitting cross-legged on the bed, resting my hands lightly on my knees. I let my breath out slowly, shutting myself down, reaching down deeper and deeper into my own mind, drawing away from the real world, the music that was fading fast, the beeps that died to my hearing, the soft sheets that fell away into nothingness. I blinked painlessly. There was no pain in my mind, at least none that was affected by the outside world. If I tripped over I felt it, but my eyes didn't hurt. I wasn't bruised and scratched and injured. Water lapped around my ankles, but I wasn't concerned, that was normal. I started walking, not worried about walking into the wall. I put out my left hand, and the slimy stone materialized straight away, exactly where I knew it would be. This was, after all, technically my world. As far as I could tell, it morphed and shifted around me as according to me. Or Kyubi on occasion, when I pissed him off or I blinked as the pulsing heat of the fox's chakra flickered slightly from in front of me. Now that was odd. Normally it was like a river rushing past me, a rippling geyser that I couldn't see but could literally feel distorting the mind space around me as it moved. That tiny glimmer of power was not normal. Kyubi, I called. You in there, you dumb fox? Nothing, not even a responding flare. Hey! Foxy! Anyone home? No response. I scowled. Yo! Fox! Rabbit demon! Kyo-chan! Small insignificant human wants to know what the fuck is going on. Still nothing, not even the growl of exasperation, and usually entertaining rage, a comment of that style would normally produce. I was starting to get nervous. This wasn't normal, and the seal not being normal was, simply put, a very bad thing. I moved forward, reaching out and touching one of the cold metal bars. This disconcerted me for two reasons. 1. Going too close to the cage occasionally means the fox takes a swipe at my head. 2. The bars were usually warm. He liked to stay close to the front of the cage, as far up in my awareness as he could go. But the metal was stone cold, and the fox's hot breath was absent. Kyubi! I called again, more loudly this time. The shard of the fox I could sense did flicker in response this time, but only faintly. I frowned. This was so not normal. I walked beside the bars, letting my hands catch against them, and paused when I caught a warm chain in my hand instead of smooth metal. Chains, locks, that seal, had it been used to lock the Kyubi out of my system, any normal person would have been skipping for joy, but unfortunately, the fox was kind of useful. The super healing and limitless chakra being two things. I didn't miss the constant killer intent though, that was kind of creepy. Time passes differently when I'm in my own head, so I don't know how long I paced around the chamber that Kyubi's cage was in, running my hands over the bars and trying, fruitlessly, I might add, to read whatever seal had been used. But seals, when active, are essentially solid chakra. Where was I? In a place basically composed of chakra. Yeah. Chakra on chakra equals no distinction equals can't read. What a pain. Eventually, I gave up. The Kyubi couldn't help, I couldn't see what was going on inside my own head, and there was really no point in hanging around any longer. I felt myself come awake in the real world, my senses fluttering back to life and Sasuke's heart monitor beeping steadily. The music was still playing, but it was a different song to before, something with violins, I thought sleepily. So the Kyubi was definitely trapped. I had no idea what was going on in there, but I think it's the first time I've been into my mindscape without being threatened with death since that day when I was 7 and mildly drunk. Don't ask. The fox couldn't stop laughing. I was really sleepy now, it would be so easy just to drop off, right here. Beep. 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 I leaned back and shuffled blindly for the blanket for a few seconds, tugging it up to cover my shoulders and settling back. I let my mind drift, letting the world fall away like I did with meditation, but instead of pulling myself inwards, falling inside myself, I just slipped under the veil of sleep. Attention, Hitaki Kakashi. Memo. Thanks, Kakashi. Thanks a lot. Kiba's been sulking all week cause a blind retard, his words, not mine, beat him, which of course means that I'm clearly not doing my job. I don't suppose you could pop by during training and scare him up a tree for me, could you? Give him a taste of why he really would prefer me as a teacher than you. Say, training ground 82, around 10ish? If you don't, I swear I'll tell Enko who it was who leaked those pictures of her to the general public. Signed. Yuhi Kurenai. Naruto, just walk towards me. You won't fall, I promise, just try to keep a straight line. I walked calmly, in a perfectly straight line, towards the voice, a perfectly calm smile glued to my face. Yes, Naruto, that's good. Can you point to where the bed is? I pointed to where I had just come from, keeping the forced smile exactly where it was. Can you point to where the bathroom is? I pointed to the left, where the bathroom was, where I could, right now, hear water running through the pipes. Very good, Naruto. Can you walk back to the bed for me, please, and sit down? I walked back, measuring my steps carefully, counting them out mentally in a furious, and feeble, attempt to distract my mind from how frickin' peeved I was. I sat on the bed, hearing the phone ring downstairs in reception, and unable to keep myself from turning my head to Sasuke's bed. The beeps had gone quiet, his breathing was gone. Kakashi had taken him off early, before I was awake, to train. Okay, Naruto, I think that's enough walking for now, the nurse told me, sitting down in the chair beside my bed. Could you listen to these sounds and tell me what they are? I sighed. This was going to be a long month. Attention, Hitaki Kakashi. Memo. My eternal rival. Your Genin's youthful performance in the face of adversity was truly breathtaking. The springtime of youth flourishes within him. Please know that my heart grieves for you and him in this hour of loss, but we shall persevere. Wosh. Signed. Mato Guy. Can you listen to these sounds and tell me what they are? Arg. I finally snapped, springing to my feet. That is the 10th time today you've asked me that. Am I not getting them right or something? Please tell me if I am. Please. This is insanely boring. Worse than the academy lectures. I mean, for crying out loud. Gyuich, I'm gonna go take a shower. Before the startled nurse could grab me, I had darted into the bathroom, slammed the door shut and locked it. As the woman started to rattle the doorknob, ordering me to open it, I groped blindly for the chair I knew was in here somewhere and jammed it under the knob. Ha! Like to see them open it now. I ignored the nurse entirely from there, yanking at my shirt and grimacing at the smell. I hadn't had a bath in, what, a week? Probably should have had one while we were in the tower, but hey, I wasn't conscious for most of that, so I have an excuse. Makes me wonder how I slept, mind you. Sheesh. 20 minutes later, I was poking at my clothes with my foot, determined not to put them back on, when Kakashi poofed in. Hi, sensei, I said as his chakra materialized. How's Sasuke doing? Why'd you take him so early, damn it? Hey, would you mind getting me a fresh set of clothes? These ones stink. How the heck did my team stand me for so long? I suspected Kakashi was rolling his eyes as he handed me a clean shirt and shorts, apparently having expected this. Sasuke's fine, he's taking a break while I checked in. You realize half the hospital is in hysterics? Ha! My head popped through the hole in the shirt, messing up my still filthy hair. I had wanted to wash it, but I was fairly sure I wasn't supposed to get the bandages wet. Which sucks, by the way. Why's that? I just wanted to take a shower. And the nurse was driving me crazy. I mean seriously, playing the same stupid recordings over and over and asking me what they are. How many times does she want me to tell her? Crowd of 40 people, 12 women, 5 children, birds in the background, slightly windy day, markets down the street, Inazuka compound in the other direction, must be Lale Street about the 44th corner or the academy staff room. Second floor with Iruka-sensei's room just above it and Saki-sensei shouting at her class next door, 5 teachers in staff room. Coffee pot is broken, geography test scheduled for 2 o'clock in 4B, sounds like August 2 years ago. I grumbled under my breath and pulled on the shorts, wiping at the water still running down my arms with the towel. Kakashi-sensei just coughed slightly, either with surprise or amusement, I wasn't quite sure. What are you doing with Sasuke? I asked, my curiosity and anxiety for my friend making me ignore the hospital's sudden lapse into insanity. I'm teaching him a new technique that he'll need if he's going to fight Gaara in the 3rd exam, Kakashi explained, and I nodded my understanding, although I made a face. Lucky bastard, when can I get out of here? They've all gone nuts, I swear. And I'm bored out of my mind. And the doctor keeps taking away my scrolls. That is so unfair. Kakashi-sensei didn't say anything for a second. He was thinking over something, probably, I guessed as I rubbed at my hair with the towel, hoping to get it just a little cleaner than before. Naruto, would you mind reading this out to me? I raised an eyebrow but took the book he handed me, skimming my fingers over the first few characters and saying aloud. He took her lovingly by the hand. Kakashi-sensei, is this your porn novel? I threw it at him, horrified, and shook my hand vigorously. Gross. I have been tainted. Wow. I broke into a fit of shudders. Kakashi caught the book, completely unfazed by my explosion. I just wanted you to read me something I knew you hadn't seen before, so you made me read your porn book? That is weird, and gross, and there is something wrong with you. They should keep you in here instead of me. I shrieked, a little hysterically. Then I took a deep breath. Okay. I am going to wash my hands. There was nothing, well, graphic on the page I wanted you to read, Kakashi informed me mildly, flipping the book open himself. It was clean. There was nothing there to taint your fragile little genin mind. Yeah, but the fact is that it was in the book, and I was touching it. I whined, as I scrubbed my hands vigorously in the sink. With hot water. And soap. Lots of soap. Ew. I was touching a pornographic novel. You are so weird, sensei. How the hell did I end up with you as a sensei? It could be worse, the pervert behind me said mildly. You could have had Guy. Point taken, I admitted. Compared to Guy, you're normal. And that's so sad I think I might cry. Kakashi chuckled lightly, but sobered rather quickly. Naruto, I need you to be honest with me. You read from my book perfectly, despite your recent injury. But you've never read the book before, never even seen the inside of it, let alone known which page I was holding out to you. How did you read it? I froze. I'd forgotten about that. I hadn't even registered doing it. It was normal, natural, to be able to read, to brush my fingers over kanji and hiragana and register their shapes, to read things almost as fast as someone who could see. It hadn't been something I thought about since I first learned to read, how to overcome another one of my barriers. I swallowed. Obviously I couldn't tell him that, it would only raise a lot more questions. Ones I didn't want to, ones I couldn't answer, but the ink sensing just happened. The inked parchment just had a different feel to unblemished paper. Hell, if I was really focusing, I could even tell the difference between the colors of inks, but that was very, very difficult, and, like, a complete waste of time to me. Really, all I needed was the clear distinction of ink and paper. And I couldn't tell exactly what color the ink was, just that it had changed. And dark colors were hard, impossible, to distinguish. I bit my lip, knowing I couldn't stall for much longer, and said slowly, I don't really know. It just, sort of, happens. Like. I just touch the paper, and I can read the characters. I don't get how it works. I shrugged helplessly, hoping that was enough. Naruto, is there anything you want to tell M-? His question never made it out, as a nurse, one I hadn't heard before, hammered on the door and bellowed, Hitachi-san. You went in there to fetch him, not hide in there like a dog. My sensei sighed and stepped to the door, wrenching the chair free and unlocking it, dropping the topic much to my relief. I followed him without needing to be told, only to groan as I was grabbed from three sides and hauled back to my bed. I can walk, you know, I grumbled, then laughed abruptly. Sensing Kakashi's eyes on me, his chakra shifting slightly with very strong confusion, it would have to be transmitted like that, I explained, be very hard to pass the third exam if I can't even walk. He sighed, and I was instantly on edge. I didn't like the sound of that. He snorted faintly. Naruto, while we're talking about the third exam. Oh, this wasn't going to be good. Suddenly I almost wanted for him to go back to talking about the fact that I was, in fact, literate. I think it might be a good idea for you to forfeit, Kakashi said, and I instantly howled WJAT. At the top of my lungs. Just listen to me. He snapped, raising his voice for one of the few times I could remember. Naruto, you suffered a debilitating injury, and you did incredibly well to get this far. But you need to know when not to push the boundaries. There have been genin killed in the third exam, and they were in perfect condition, not already crippled by previous injuries. So what? I shouted back furiously, absently noting that the nurses had all left, backing out of the room as fast as possible. I can still fight. So fucking what if I can't see? Who says I need my eyes to win a goddamn fight against that goddamn Niji? I won't give up. I never give up. As long as I can still stand up, sensei, I will keep fighting. I'm not gonna give up and you can't make me. Naruto, you could easily be killed in the next rounds, Kakashi snapped dangerously. You're up against some of the top genin from across all 5 great nations. You have to learn when to back down and take your losses, or you could die. My voice dropped to a low growl as I stopped shouting. I know the risks, sensei. I always do and I always did. And I'm not willing to just throw everything away because of one cut, one failed dodge, one enemy ninja. Naruto, this isn't a game anymore, Kakashi growled. Kakashi-sensei, it was never a game, I snarled back. It never was and never will be. And I will not give up. For several seconds we stood there glaring at each other, before Kakashi sighed heavily and almost seemed to back down. Certainly the killer intent died down. I let my own die away, having been barely aware I'd been giving it off. I'll see you later, Naruto. I need to get back to training Sasuke, he said levelly, and I knew this wasn't the last I had heard of this. Yeah. See you later, sensei, I said in a firmly controlled voice. I scowled as my sensei left, leaving me in my room with the CD player that was still going. And so begins another episode of Boring. Stay tuned for more action-packed boredom. Attention, Hatake Kakashi. Memo. I have yet to receive notice that your student Uzumaki Naruto is withdrawing from the 3rd trial in the Chunin selection exam. This concerns me. I let you enroll your rookie team, yes, but there are limits, Kakashi. Send me his withdrawal. I mean it. Signed. Sandaime Hokage. Attention, Sandaime Hokage. Memo. Working on it. Signed. Hatake Kakashi. I lay flat on my back, listening sourly to the music playing again, unable to move for fear of disturbing the newly installed drip in my left arm. I don't know why it was there. The Forest of Death Infirmary only put me on it until they were sure I'd gotten some of my lost blood back. There was a rustle of paper as the nurse sitting in the corner of the room turned a page of her book, and I wished I could get out my sealing notes, but I didn't want to risk getting them confiscated. The boredom was suffocating, making me want to scream and run and do something. Damn it. Hey, I said suddenly, before the boredom could drive me insane, what's your name? The woman jumped, the book falling to the floor with a whap, paperback 200 pages or so, as she stood up. Natsu, Uzumaki-san. I grinned and sat up a little, having something new to do. None of that san stuff, and don't call me Uzumaki, that's what Iruka-sensei calls me when I'm in really big trouble. Bigger than big trouble. Bigger than the usual big trouble. Just Naruto is fine. What were you reading? For a few seconds there was nothing, before her voice said, it was a book on medicinal herbs, just something a friend gave me. Any good? I asked curiously. I suspected Hinata dabbled in herbs, she often smelled of them back in our academy days, but I had generally not had a lot of interest, except in some of the poisonous ones, and that was a recent thing. Well, it's interesting enough, Natsu told me as she sat back down on the chair. Herbs are very useful but are often overlooked. I raised an eyebrow at that description, my mind filing it away automatically. With nothing else to focus on, my mind was occupied with taking apart every sound I heard, translating it, deciding on every little factor, in a person's tone, in the heaviness of a thump or the thinness of scratches, deciphering what they meant. It was annoying. And distracting. And the person 3 doors down from me was dragging his cup over the surface of the table again. Do you read a lot? Natsu laughed, a little self-consciously, I thought. Yeah, as much as I can. Whenever I'm not on duty or doing something else I'm usually reading. Yeah, me too. I cheered instantly. Well, not really, not unless I'm researching for something, which does happen a lot of the time, like when I'm studying for my seals or looking for a new technique or what's it, but I do read a lot except when I'm drawing my seals and testing MCOS that takes a while, but I spend most of my time training. Or bothering Sasuke team. I cackled maniacally, then added, hey, where are you going? As the nurse stood up out of her chair and moved closer to the bed. I'm just going to turn down your dose of morphine, she said carefully. Oh no, it's fine, I'm not in any pain or anything, I said happily, waving my hand at her. Wait, morphine is a painkiller, right? Cause if it's the stuff that's making me sleepy, it had better not be, cause that stuff is hard to throw off. Well, morphine is a painkiller, but it does have the side effect of making the patient sleepy, Natsu said. My hand instantly went to the needle in my wrist. This thing comes out, right now. Ah! No! Don't do that! She yelped, grabbing both my hands. You'll hurt yourself. Why is everyone worried about me hurting myself? I asked sleepily, suddenly tired again. Must be that morphine stuff. I certainly didn't have the energy to fight Natsu as she pulled a blanket over me and pushed me back against the pillows. I'm not a complete moron, still a couple pieces missing. I giggled slightly at my own joke, my mind scattered and wandering, slipping fast out of my control. I didn't even remember falling asleep. Attention, Hitaki Kakashi. Memo. And the prodigy does it again. Geez, Kakashi, is there anything you're not perfect at? I thought teaching would be it, but no, instead you spend freaking 6 months with a kid and then he can take on and win a fight to the death with a perfectly functioning genin directly after being blinded. Gods, I hate you. Well, no I don't, but I'm reminded of why I did hate when we were kids. Fuck, I'm having flashbacks. Kakashi's a chunin, now, you know. If you put in a little effort, you could be a chunin too. That's unreasonable pressure to put on a 6-year-old, Dad. Off topic. Where was I? Oh, yeah, jealousy. Die, Hitaki, die. Signed. Sarutobi Asuma. I woke up with a twitch and jerked upright, my heart thundering in my ears, adrenaline raging through my blood, but I was in the hospital. My head ached, I was rather stiff, and my left arm felt slightly weird, the drip. Stupid thing. Ah, you're awake, said an unfamiliar voice from the chair where Natsu had been sitting last night before I zonked out. What the, who are you? You're a new one. I frowned contemplatively. My name's Yori, Dr. Hiroshi will be in later to check up on you and get started for today's exercises, the new nurse explained. I processed what she'd said for a few seconds, then groaned. Ah, man, am I going to be listening to those dumb tapes again? If I am, they better have some new ones or I'm going to go out of my mind. And seriously, can you walk in a straight line? Tell me what this is. Honestly. And yet, half an hour later, I found myself saying in a dull, bored monotone, kunai. Shuriken. Explosive tags. Scroll, as I briefly ran my hands over each item. Book. Pen. Shoe. Ryite. Chopsticks. Hey, my headband. Sensei nicked it, I wondered where it went. I'd been very upset over not having it, actually, and immediately tied it around my neck to make sure it didn't mysteriously vanish again. Hand fan. Toothpick. Random small box. What the hell is this thing? I ran my fingers over the last item a little more closely, reading the embossed writing with a raised eyebrow. Fairy floss nail polish. Okay, whatever floats your boat, dude. I checked the rest of the line, suddenly beaming as I came across 3 scrolls, one with messy writing spilling onto the outside. My scrolls. Yeah. I wondered where they went. Mine. I yelped as the doctor reached for them and snatched them up myself, scrambling backwards and grabbing my abandoned backpack from the floor, shoving all 3 into the side pocket and pulling the drawstring tight before sitting on it. Mine. I half expected the doctor insisting on me handing the scrolls back, but he seemed to pause and consider, then let it go. Okay, Naruto, we're going to practice your balance a little more today, alright? So can you stand up for me, please, and walk towards me? Don't rush it, just take your time, one step at a time, I promise you won't fall. I walked over to him flatly, squashing the impulse to step on his feet out of spite. Are we going to do anything more interesting today? The doctor chuckled. Now, Naruto, one step at a time. I think I am going to scream. Attention, Hitaki Kakashi. Memo. Kakashi. Did you see your boys fight? Talk about insane but wicked. Well, the girl lost, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I want some of whatever it is you have those brats of yours snorting. What is it and why aren't you sharing? Signed. Mitarashi Anko. I was lying flat on my back again, as close to glaring at the ceiling as I could get. I wasn't sure how long I'd been in hospital now. I kept falling asleep and waking up, and I was losing the ability I'd had of being able to tell what time it was. Whatever drugs they had me on were very disorientating, and I didn't know what time it was or what day, and no one seemed to really care enough to tell me unless I asked them in between their stupid pointless little doctor exercises, and for all their talk of one step at a time, half of them seemed to want to get out of the room as fast as they could. And I cut off the furious mental rant as footsteps and a vaguely familiar chakra source approached, sitting up to look at the door and hoping it was who I thought it was. I'd only really started identifying people by their chakra signatures after the wave mission, or maybe a little before, so I couldn't be totally certain without hearing the footsteps, exactly the right beat, the slight chink of the doorknob as he turned it a little too far. He always did that. "Arika-sensei?" I asked anxiously, tilting my head as the door swung open. "Naruto." I winced at the forced cheer. "Geez, sensei, I'm not terminal," I said. "You don't have to sound so tragically trying to smile in the face of adversity for me." "I'm okay, really." Arika-sensei hesitated a beat, before moving closer with the sound of sandals sliding on cheap hospital laminate flooring. My bed dipped as he sat down, and I grinned in his approximate direction, hugging a pillowcase holding my scrolls and notebook. I'd taken to sleeping on them after the doctors had tried to take them again, muttering stupid things about unhealthy attachments and delusional behavior, all because they found me reading my scrolls in the middle of the night. One time, I could only conclude that Kakashi-sensei hadn't decided to share the tidbit that I could still read with the medics, the bastard. I knew there was a reason I liked him. Irika shifted, and my mind jerked back to the present and the sensei currently in the room. "It's super cool you came to visit, though, sensei," I chirped. "Did you come straight from school? It is after school time, right? Or are you skipping to see me?" "Ha, I knew I'd convert you one day, sensei." "Sky for your life. It's 5 in the evening," Arika-sensei broke in, amused. "School's been out for hours." I slumped. "Damn." He chuckled, lifting the whatever it was he'd carried into the room in his hand when I'd heard it swiping his clothes in passing every now and then. "Do you remember, before the exam, I told you that if you survived, I'd treat you to ramen?" I didn't call him on the way his voice broke at the word survived, hating how upset Irika had been by this whole thing. I just nodded, smiling widely. "Yaha. I'm holding you to it, too, so no trying to weasel out of it. The moment those nurses look away, I'm outta here, and you're gonna buy me the biggest bowl of ramen that old man can make." Irika chuckled, still fiddling with his package. "I can do you one better. You can't go to ramen, so I brought ramen to you. Smuggled it in." I froze, an excited tremor running through me, before I kicked my legs and waved my arms, shrieking, "You are awesome. I love you, I love you, I love you. Are you talking to me or the ramen?" Irika-sensei teased as he carefully slid a warm bowl into my hands, supporting it for much longer than necessary. Had my eyes not been slit in two and then bound by bandaging, I'd have opened them wide at him. As it was, I did my best to broadcast innocent surprise. "Ha! Sensei, you're still here?" I said. "Cheeky brat," Irika-sensei said fondly, now arranging my fingers around a set of chopsticks. "You got them?" he asked, and I nodded, fiddling the utensils around in my hand until I had a comfortable grip on them and digging into my food. I almost missed the adult's chuckle. "It figures that nothing could possibly dampen your ramen eating skills. Don't spill it on yourself, okay?" I pulled off offended even with my mouth full. "Sensei. I'm not a baby." He stayed with me, talking and keeping me company, long after the ramen was all gone. He was still there when I eventually slipped into sleep, and the last thing I knew was his fingers carding through my hair soothingly, and the slight hitching of his breathing, almost as if he was crying. Chapter 15, Not. I had avoided being slipped any more of the sleepy drugs, so I was now reasonably certain it was day 5 of the hospital stay. Not for sure, I caught sleep in, 2-hour snatches as different drugs cycled through, which was really annoying, thinking back on it. Now, though, whatever painkiller I was on was mild enough for my head to be aching faintly, which was about as clear-headed as I was going to get. It was still fairly early in the morning, something like 6, about 3/4 of the hospital was still asleep. I leaned down and touched my toes, smiling when none of my muscles really protested at the movement and shifting slightly to stretch my legs against the wall. It was about time, I mused. Being unable to move without pain had been very annoying. Was that normal, for other ninja, after a big fight? Che. Sucks to be them. I laced my fingers and pulled my arms slowly up behind my back, being careful not to push too much farther than the first strains of muscle. Pull too hard at this one and you could actually snap the tendons. With Kyubi out of commission I would prefer not to risk it, but a couple of flips should be okay, as long as I didn't knock over the drip. Which meant I was going to knock it over for certain. So I was just going to have to try not to. I spread my feet a little, lowering my center of balance, and without warning flipped perfectly backwards, landing squarely on my feet with my hands out only a little for my balance. I beamed. Perfect. Okay, and 1 2 3. Flip 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 1 2 3 all in a row, feet pounding into the floor at even, measured intervals. 3 perfect flips, no pauses, no touching the ground with my hands. Good. I hadn't slipped up too far in my hospital stay, then, although my arm was now stinging thanks to the twisted tubes. Stupid drip. I hated the damn thing, but the doctors freaked every time I went to yank it out, so I left it alone, if only to shut them up. Yuzu, Naruto, what do you think you're doing? Yori shouted, sounding horrified. I scowled. Hadn't she gone to talk to the doctor? Damn, I had been preoccupied, not noticing her come up like that. I'm just practicing my flips, checking my muscles still respond okay, I told her, stretching my shoulders again and leaning sideways, one arm over my head as I stretched out the triceps and rib muscles. Ooh, ouch, that hurt. Found a bruise. How did I get that one? Oh yeah, walked into the doorknob yesterday. Naruto, you need to rest, the nurse insisted, coming forwards. I snorted. I've been lying around for long enough. I need to get back into training, or I'll have no chance in the third exam, I explained breezily. Naruto, I think that fighting in the third exam might be a bad idea, Yori said. I snorted. That's what everyone keeps saying to me. But you just wait and see. I'm gonna do great. I'm not about to give up just now. Speaking of which, Naruto, said the doctor, whose name I still couldn't remember. I've been meaning to talk to you about this. I really don't think you should fight in the third exam. I sighed with a fierce scowl, but he continued without seeming to notice that I was disagreeing. As a matter of fact, Naruto, I think this is starting to get all too dangerous. I think that participating in the third exam would be too much for you, especially with your new injury. And it's so much bigger than that. You ought to quit being a ninja before you get yourself killed. That stopped my grumbling, rebellious thoughts cold. Quit being a ninja. Give up entirely. Stop trying to learn techniques, stop learning to fight. Being a ninja was my life. Did he even realize what he was asking me? Stop fighting. Give up. Stop living. I refocused on his words. There are other things that you could do instead, but I wasn't cold anymore. I was hot with anger. How dare he say that I shouldn't be a ninja anymore? Didn't I have a say in this? Wasn't this my life he was playing with? I choked out, finding it difficult to speak through the intense heat in my chest and throat. I couldn't even get a coherent sentence together in my head, let alone get it in the air. The doctor had paused in his speech, my strangled sputtering apparently getting his attention as I struggled to get anything together. You cannot be fucking serious, I finally gasped out. The doctor got the wrong impression. Oh no, I'm perfectly serious, Naruto-san, he said, sounding disgustingly happy with what he was saying. You can easily find another job, a less dangerous one, in which your disability won't hamper you as much. You could even return to a civilian school or something similar if you wanted. I let out a strangled sound that was meant to be a curse and shook my head violently. I couldn't imagine, did he know what this meant to me? Did he know what he was trying to do? Not being a ninja, I think it would just kill me. I stopped trying to put a full sentence together, just letting out an anguished cry and yanking out my drip needle, making the doctor yelp, before I whipped around and sprinted unerringly for the window. By the way, don't try this at home, unless you're a ninja. I'd left it open earlier for some air that didn't reek of antiseptic, so it was easy to just vault over the sill and let the chakra in my feet catch hold of the brick. I shot towards the ground with gravity helping probably more than it should have, more thankful than ever for Kakashi teaching us tree walking, or wall walking, in wave country. I blocked out the frantic shouting from behind me as I landed neatly upright, and ignored the fact that I was probably going to get in trouble later as I bolted across the open field. I was instinctively heading for the cool weight at the edge of my senses that was a forest and within seconds was darting between the trees, glad I'd had the sense to insistently change into my own clothing before I'd done anything this morning. I was furious, as angry as I could ever remember being. How dare he? How dare they? They couldn't just say that I couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't be a ninja. I had worked so damn hard for this, and they thought they could just take it away. My left hand skimmed a tree, the sharp pain of the bark cutting the back of my hand coming through to my raging mind and making me slow down, remembering to make a group of shadow clones to get my bearings. Better they walked into trees than me. The yelps and puffs were enough for me to figure out hazards. I was still shaking with anger. How dare they? I slowed down and stopped, clenching my fists and just letting my clones smash through the forest and get dispelled one by one to build up a map. How dare they? They didn't know how long I had worked, how many times I fought with my own chakra to get it under control, how long I spent trying to recall colors I hadn't seen in years to get the henge right, how long it took me to be able to relocate myself with Kawarimi. I sighed harshly, irritated, as a clone fell in a lake with a splash. Stupid clone. Stupid doctors. Stupid ARF. Another one fell in, and I growled, baring my teeth furiously. Stupid clones. Well, we're copies of you, so what does that say about you? One of the clones said rudely from nearby. I threw a kunai at it, the sound of yet another dispelling clone more satisfying than it should have been, and I grinned, before scowling as another clone fell in the water and drowned. Stupid things. Were they trying to walk on the surface of the water or something? I paused in my raging, focusing on that thought. Back in Wave, Zabuza had walked on water. It hadn't been interesting enough at the time to focus on, what with imminent death and everything, but now that I thought about it, I realized Kakashi had done the same thing at one point, and remembered their chakra flow half-focused to their feet, although they hadn't seemed to be noticing it. A shinobi skill, like tree climbing, like Kakashi-sensei had taught us in Wave? Was it something like that, maybe the next level up? I frowned, sticking to the water sounded like a bad idea to me. But hey, if sensei could do it, it was worth a shot. I sent a clone to test the water depth, not wanting to drown, 'cause I can't swim very well, if I slipped up the first few hundred times. Ha! If, I say. Ha ha. If. Anyway, moving on, it took a few minutes to find a spot where the water didn't randomly drop 20 feet without warning. It was deeper than I would have liked, even right at the bank it was maybe up to my waist, but it would do. I dispelled all the clones, needing to work this out on my own, plus, some of them had started squabbling, and tried to think for a few seconds, imagining what had made it work for Sensei and Sword Dude. Then I gave up thinking and just channeled some chakra to my feet, stepping into the water. Splash! Well, that didn't work. And the water was cold. I waded out crossly, immediately walking out again, with exactly the same result. For more times I tried the exact same thing, focusing my chakra and trying to stick to the surface of the water, but it just wasn't working. It wasn't even a matter of me using too much chakra, it just wasn't working. Okay, so sticking wasn't the answer. I'd thought it sounded stupid in the first place. Maybe the opposite? Float instead of stick? I shrugged, my mind completely occupied with the new problem as opposed to the one waiting at the hospital. I was soaking wet already. One more try wouldn't hurt. I put my hands together, folding the ring and pinky finger of my left hand over my right ones and keeping the pointer and middle straight in the ram seal, focusing a swirling burst of chakra to my feet, forcing it to spread and hover instead of try to stick. Carefully, I put one foot on the surface of the water, and began to lean on it, pushing my weight down against it and waiting for water to splash against my foot. The chakra held. I grinned, instantly cheered up by the fact that this was working. I focused chakra to my other foot, to step out fully, and the chakra in the first foot wavered slightly, making it fall through into the water. I yelped as I toppled forwards, ending up nearly neck-deep as I sat on the lake bed. Great! This could be harder than I thought. At least a quarter of an hour later I was still having no luck, and was wet head to toe to boot. Grumbling, I dragged my waterlogged self out of the water and sat on the bank to A, dry off and B, think over this problem. Water isn't a solid surface, especially not running water like Kakashi-sensei and Zabuza were standing on. You can't just shove out a solid wave of chakra and hope it's okay, it's more complex than that, I thought. The water changes every second, with every breath of wind, every slight current of the water, with ripples and waves and the rush of water as it's pulled downstream. You'd have to adjust the chakra output, every second, to get it right. Don't get me wrong, I'm no genius. This was what I'd worked out in the last 20 minutes while getting myself soaked experimenting. It wasn't like I could see what I was doing, but every time I felt a breeze, I fell in. The one time I felt a fish come close, I fell in. This did not take a genius of either Sasuke or Sakura's caliber to figure out. I sighed, leaning back and tilting my head to the sky, frowning contemplatively. This wasn't easy. It was obviously going to be more trouble than I anticipated, but still, walking on water. Mastering a skill like that would be so cool. I grinned and clambered to my feet, focusing my chakra for another go and stepping out onto the lake, promptly falling in and cursing at the coldness. My chakra was seriously not cooperating, and it was making this very difficult. Splash, curse, splash, curse, splash, curse, splash, curse, curse, curse. I really wasn't getting anywhere with this, except steadily wetter, colder and more frustrated. But I kept trying, with varying results, for at least 20 minutes. Splash, curse, arg. Why won't this work? I finally hollered, staggering out of the water and shaking myself off furiously. This had ceased to be amusing. Every time I thought I'd got it, my chakra would shift. Or the ripples in the water would become too violent for me to compensate in time. What the fuck? Odd giggling drew my fury away from my chakra's random flares and onto the vague chakra essence I sensed at the edge of the lake. What the hell are you laughing at, you old geezer? I bellowed in his direction, lashing out at the water with the flat of one palm. The giggling stopped abruptly as I started to haul myself out of the water again, still cursing violently under my breath, and I turned my head suspiciously to the chakra essence. It was shadowed, like Orochi Freak's, but the shadow was fainter, harder to focus on, wavering like it wasn't quite there. This was very good chakra shielding. Obviously someone who was used to hiding, not like the snake guy, who was clearly a show-off. Bastard! I decided to ignore it, seeing as he hadn't tried to kill me yet, and instead glared at the water. This was so damn hard. My chakra was flaring and flickering uncontrollably, and it was driving me nuts. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. Getting worked up was not going to help me here. I waited until the heat had faded from my head and my heart rate was quieter before focusing my chakra again, holding onto it with an iron grip as I stepped out, instantly altering the output of that foot as the water started to shift. My foot went 2 inches into the water, but that was all. I pulled the other foot out, slowly, carefully maintaining my balance and the chakra flow, and then I was standing sort of on top of the water. I could hardly believe it, and sure enough, just a few seconds later my chakra wavered the wrong way, my control slipped, the water splashed, and the air was filled with cursing once again. Hey, brat, you're disturbing the peace. I spat out a mouthful of water. What peace? I've been cursing my ass off for the last hour. Just shut up already, before you scare off the skinny dippers. The, what? For a few seconds I was confused before I remembered Kiba's definition of the word, when I burst out, why would you care? I'm watching them. It's great research. Why would you want to watch naked ladies swimming? I asked blankly, totally confused. Sheesh, and I thought guy was weird. That makes no sense. No sense. Kid, you have been horrifically deprived. Okay, this was starting to annoy me now. The guy made less sense the longer he went on, and I wasn't getting any further with my water walking. What a pain. Grumbling under my breath, I pulled myself upright, dripping water, and dragged myself out of the lake again, mumbling obscenities that would have made some of the coarser Jounin blush. What the hell is wrong? I muttered, shaking my hands in a feeble attempt to dry them. Why won't this work, damn it? What, not interested in the delights of the elusive female? The man asked, his voice a little louder. He must have turned towards me, because his chakra hadn't moved. No, I said blankly, slumping flat on my back on the bank with my feet in the water. Why would I be? My bandages were soaking wet, they had been splashed numerous times. They are going to be a pain later, aren't they? For several seconds there was silence, and I began to ignore him, instead turning back to the issue of my chakra. If it wasn't for the fact it had been bothering me since the fox got sealed, I'd just think this was a bad day, but unfortunately, it wasn't. The fox had something to do with this. What are you doing anyway, brat? I considered whether or not to answer him, before deciding that with ninja chakra, this guy might know what I was doing wrong. And even though he smelt weirdly of flowery soap, his chakra felt like someone born and raised in Konoha, even with a curious waver at the edges that felt unfamiliar. I didn't feel like I couldn't trust him. Even, the opposite. I'm trying to do water walking, but I can't get it right, I explained. Gah, this is such a pain. Humph. The chakra had shifted closer to me. What did your sensei tell you? Ha! He didn't say anything, I haven't even seen him for 2 days, I said, confused. What, so he just sent you out here and said walk on water? No. Sensei's lazy, but he's not that bad. No, he did it while we were in wave country a few weeks ago, and I figured it would be a useful skill, if I could get it to work, I explained, sitting up and turning my head to him again. There was another short pause, before the man said abruptly, channel some chakra. Don't get up, just focus. I shrugged slowly, putting my hands back into the ram seal and tugging at my chakra, which swirled against my grip, then ebbed into it and began to spiral through my coils, making my skin tingle faintly as it brushed the surface. Now wah! I was cut off by a sudden blow to the stomach and doubled over, gasping for air, and suddenly there was a flare of incredible power, the feeling of something being loosed, flashing through my coils, heating them from the inside out. Long time, no annoy, brat. Hey, Kyubi, I thought, sprawling out on the sand again. Honestly, I can't get to you for a week, and this is the condition you're in? The fox grumbled, prodding at torn muscles and cuts with his chakra to reboot the healing process. What in the 9 layers of hell did you do to your head? Sheesh, if you weren't already blind, this gash would have done it, you clumsy son of a badger. Che, how much blood are you missing? Are you completely incapable of the basics of first aid? I'm a soul-sucking demon and even I know better than what's here. I ignored the fox doing emergency repairs and instead yelled, what the hell was that? Just something to loosen you up, he said, a smirk in his voice. Try it again. Scowling, I stood up, focusing my chakra and stepping out onto the water. The cloud of chakra wavered, then held. I blinked, stepping out fully. Warm energy burbled through my system, but it wasn't the stubborn, vicious resistance it had been since the fox was sealed. It shifted easily with every nudge of my willpower, and as I took several experimental steps on the water, nothing slipped. I didn't fall. My chakra was under perfect control. I spun around to face the chakra source still standing on the shore. How did you know that would work? I demanded. He released that double-up seal, so he knows at least a little sealing. A pity I don't know the complexity of the seal, or I'd have a better judge of his ability. Trick of the trade, kiddo, was the easy reply, and I blinked. He knows sealing quite well, then. He's good, really good. Someone of his level, maybe I've heard of him. I can't remember any sealing masters from Konoha since the Yondaime, and he's kind of dead. Who are you? I asked. The guy did this funny shuffling motion, then a hop, then something that I had no idea what he was doing. All the whilst shouting a list of titles, something about Toad Sannin, and Grand Seal Master, but then I guessed that one already. There was a long silence as he waited for my reaction. Great. My seal problem was solved by a lunatic. I wish Sasuke was here, at least then he'd be able to tell me what the crazy man looks like. I am right here, you know, the man, Jiraiya, said, sounding faintly amused. Who's Sasuke? I turned my whole body in his direction, still moving warily on the water, and shifted a bit closer before replying, my teammate and my best friend. If he was here I'd teach him how to do this, but... I scowled and cut myself off, feeling a little disconcerted. But what? Jiraiya pressed. I shrugged uncomfortably, still walking a circle on the top of the water and marveling at the fact that I had yet to fall in. He and Kakashi-sensei are out training. He has to learn a new technique for the 3rd stage of the Chunin exams, so he hasn't been able to visit me in the hospital since the 2nd stage finished. It's been really boring without him, it's kinda why I'm out here in the first place. For a moment he said nothing, and I sped up how fast I moved on the water, forcing myself to react quicker to alter the chakra, even darting abruptly from side to side to make it harder, my senses and mind adjusting rapidly to keep up. So you're supposed to be in the hospital, then? He sounded highly amused, and I snorted slightly myself, but the mirth died at his next question. Why'd you come out here? I scowled, slowing in my movements, and pointedly turned my head away from him. I told you, I was bored. My voice was sullen and flat, and I could feel my control starting to waver in the face of my suppressed anger, and I walked off the water stiffly before I could lose it altogether and get wet again. I hate sitting still for too long. And the hospital fumes were making me feel sick. Well, I think it might be time you went back, he said calmly, not seeming to notice my fury, or if he did, he was ignoring it. They're probably getting worried about you. The doctors are kind of finicky about people escaping from the hospital. Che, I grumbled, but I knew I'd have to go back eventually. Fine. True to the guy's assumption, there were people rushing everywhere, obviously in various states of alarm, and I raised an eyebrow, half amused by the panic I had caused. Naruto, where the hell have you been? Natsu screeched, suddenly grabbing my shoulder, making me flinch. I hadn't noticed her creeping up on me. Everyone has been so worried. Thank you for bringing him back, Jiraiya-sama. Naruto, your sensei is in a panic. Why on earth did you bolt off like that? I stiffened and scowled, literally feeling myself shutting down, but Natsu didn't seem to notice as she dragged me back to my room. And you're soaking wet. We'll have to change those bandages straight away. Were you swimming? Or did you just fall in the water? Whatever the case, there's pond water in your eyes. That's going to need to be cleaned. Very well, now sit down and wait for the doctor. Said doctor appeared nearly instantly, and I ignored the lecture on not running off and scaring people like that while Natsu covered me with several blankets and toweled me off, turning my head away from both of them and scowling. Then suddenly my expression brightened, and I sprang to my feet, yanking off the remaining bandaging and sending the bedding flying and springing for the door, howling, Sasuke. I jerked the door open, pulled my friend inside, and then slammed it again, grinning like a maniac. Sasuke, it's about time you visited. I've been so damn bored. How's your training going? Is Kakashi-sensei actually teaching you anything useful? What's your new technique like? Can you do it right yet? Naruto, calm down, Sasuke sighed, patting the top of my head condescendingly, but I was so pleased to see him that I ignored the patronizing gesture and just beamed at him. Hey, your eyes have healed. When did that happen? Ha! I put a hand to my face, ignoring the doctor's indignant splutters, prodding cautiously at the area that had been an open and rather painful wound, feeling only a rough line of scar tissue. Hey cool. That must have happened this afternoon when I cut myself off. When you escaped from the hospital and scared the crap out of everyone, Sasuke completed. He tugged lightly on my hair, a silent tell me what you did later, and I made a face at him. Uzumaki, please sit. Said man insisted. You need to calm down. What the hell is with you people and calming me down? I screeched at the top of my lungs. I wasn't about to be nice and polite and cooperative, oh hell no. I am calm, damn it. Do I need to be any calmer? Am I supposed to be unconscious or something? Sheesh. Sasuke waited until I'd finished shouting, then said, feel better now? I glared at him, but I nodded anyway. Good. I heard you've been giving the doctors a bit of trouble. Something about locking yourself in the bathroom. They were bugging me. I whined. Seriously, how many times do I have to tell them what this object is or where this recording was taken or how many steps there are around the room or where the bathroom is or how many chairs are in the reception area? My voice rose in a furious screech at the end of that speech, and I had to pause to gasp for air. But seriously, Naruto, 3 times? Sasuke sat down on my bed, trying and failing to keep the laughter out of his voice. I lost my temper 3 times, I said sulkily, pouting at him. You try getting poked and prodded and stared and scolded and Naruto, can you walk in a straight line for 5 days and see how long it takes you to snap? I think I did pretty damn well, thank you. A sharp knock at the door pulled us from our verbal spar, and as I glanced at the door I sensed Jiraiya and Kakashi-sensei coming in, sensing them feeling more solemn than before. What now? More bad news? Or were they going to try to talk me out of being a ninja as well? Naruto, I need to get back to training Sasuke, so I'm afraid he's coming with me again, said Kakashi pleasantly, and I sighed, sitting down heavily on my bed and smiling sadly at Sasuke in farewell. We'll visit again soon, don't worry. See ya, Dobe, my friend said teasingly, and I stuck out my tongue at him. Yeah, don't kill yourself training, team, I replied, half smiling. I felt them go, tipping my head as the door closed behind them, and the doctor moved forward again to inspect the once gash over my eyes. His hands were shaking slightly. Incredible, he whispered. This just isn't possible. This was recent, a dangerous wound, and now, it's nothing more than scar tissue. This is amazing. How could this have happened? I made a face, wondering how to answer this. If the doctor actually didn't know about Kyubi, I didn't want to tell him, and if he did, I didn't want him suddenly spouting some crap about the demon possessing my body or some such babble if I reminded him. It turned out to be Jiraiya who saved my butt. It's the brat's Kekkei Genkai, advanced healing. Something funny was done to his system and it took a while to kick in, but once it gets going, it's very effective. Healing Kekkei Genkai. I thought that was just you. It is just me, you moron, he's lying. We need to do something about this lying does not exist thing you've got going on. I do not. Who was it who knew Kabuto wasn't to be trusted? Ha! Ha! Told you so. I have suddenly been reminded of why I hate humans. By tomorrow morning he'll probably be ready to be released, Jiraiya was saying. By then his Kekkei Genkai will have finished replacing the blood he lost and you can see how much damage was actually done. I blinked. Was Jiraiya actually trying to get me out of the hospital? I could hug him, but I wouldn't, 'cause he was loony. As a matter of fact you could probably check him over now. The doctor immediately moved in on me, gently prodding at the scar and asking me, does this hurt at all? Can you feel my fingers? Tell me if it hurts or you feel a tingling anywhere you shouldn't. No. Yes. No. No tingling. No. No, it doesn't hurt, damn it. Can you tell me how many fingers I'm holding up? Can you see me, tell me what color shirt I'm wearing? I hesitated. It stung to admit this. It actually hurt having to say this aloud. No. I can't see anything. Straight away the poking got worse. That's very strange indeed, this line, it scarred quite cleanly, but the eyes, there's no scar at all, it's like they were never touched in the first place. But if his vision is still gone, was something damaged internally? Maybe we should take a scan. Jiraiya cleared his throat. That shouldn't be necessary. You remember what I said about his bloodline limit? It being forcibly activated and deactivated like it was may have disallowed some of its usual thoroughness, and some internal damage may not have been properly fully repaired. Here was where I started to lose his train of babbling. Just because I'd been in the hospital nearly a week didn't mean I spoke the language. The rest of it went something like this. Because his Kekkei Genkai was repressed, blah 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 scar tissue, never been needed blah 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 bloodline blah 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 blah. His eyes didn't scar blah 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 blah, blah 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 poison blah 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 healing blah blah repressed blah blah. Blah 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 scars blah 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 poison blah remnants blah 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 further damage. Blah blah Kekkei Genkai blah natural reaction blah blah delicate area. His body is blah blah blah, is tuned to that happening, so with it blah blah like it was he may blah 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 blah. There was something about genetic code in there, too, but it made absolutely zero sense to me. Fox, should I be understanding this? I asked worriedly. No. He's making it up. Che, honestly. What actually happened is that, yes, because you were the complete and utter idiot that you are and got me sealed off, my chakra couldn't heal your worthless mouthful of hide. The venom had nothing to do with your eyes, it was busy eating away at your blood's oxygen saturation until your fever knocked it out of commission. Haha, I had a fever. Not one that you noticed, Spawn. And that blather about scars is all lies, too. If it wasn't for my help you'd be covered in them, brat, so be very, very grateful, and I might not eat you when I get out of here. Forget that dragon-esque crap about starting at the toes and working your way up, I'm going straight for the heart. When he started on like that there was no talking to him, so I tuned out the beginnings of his rant and tuned back in the, hopefully, end of Jiraiya's. There are certain things that, once damaged sufficiently, cannot be repaired, even with a Kekkei Genkai like Naruto's. Its repression during the exam probably only compounded the problem, Jiraiya finished explaining. My eyes were still blinded from when I was 4, and you couldn't fix that, even now, I thought, with a faint mental sigh. Nope. Sorry, brat, but you're out of your infernal luck there. The poison did too good a job. I was vaguely startled that Kyubi broke from his monologue on the best ways to eat humans to say that, however sarcastically. What followed was a long and complicated series of people all looking over me, trying to find something wrong and bickering amongst themselves over why I'd randomly healed, but my eyes remained damaged, despite an apparent abundance of evidence to the contrary. It was all very boring. A good 3 or 4 hours after I'd been returned to the hospital, when I was beginning to give up hope on ever being released from this crazy OCD place, I glanced up from where I was sitting cross-legged on my bed. There was a platoon of doctors outside, still arguing, and I suspected it was going to get ugly sooner or later, but those nut jobs weren't my problem. No, I was interested in the stolid chakra source meandering down my corridor. Hey Kakashi-sensei, I said eagerly as he let himself in, the babble from outside briefly rising in intensity as the door opened. Did you come to get me out of here? Please say yes. I think I unnerved him a bit. There was a second or two of silence before he answered me, saying, "Hello, Naruto. How are you doing today, Board?" I answered instantly, shifting uncomfortably on the bed. The doctors have all gone crazy again. Even worse than when you picked up Sasuke. Where'd he go, anyway? And I really want to get out of here. I hate hospitals, sensei. Kakashi chuckled softly. I pouted at him. I don't think the doctors would appreciate it much if I stole you. They tend to be, fussy about that, as I'm sure you've noticed. Please, sensei. I begged, tilting my brows into the puppy dog eyes. I'm really bored in here. I'll love you forever. I'm not hurt anymore, so please, can I go home? Kakashi chuckled again. I'll see what I can do, Naruto, he said, ruffling my hair reassuringly before he vanished again. I sighed forlornly, flopping back on my bed so that my bare feet touched the wall above the cold metal frame of the head of the bed. These people had no respect for an active mind, I grumbled silently, glaring at the ceiling. How anyone could expect me to sit still and be quiet and just listen to music or walk tamely around my room under orders was beyond me. Hadn't I been labeled hyperactive by just about every person who met me? I tapped the wall with one foot, getting a faint but distinct echo as the sound vibrated across the surface. I hit it again, twice with the ball of my foot and then once more sharply with my heel, making a staccato pattern of sound. I smirked. Is there anyone close enough for me to annoy with this? I had made up an interesting little pattern by the time Sensei got back, kicking out at the wall rhythmically. The doctors had been entrenched in doctor jargon for far too long for me to be interested in them. There was only so long I could sit and strain my ears to listen and try to decipher their strange language. The kicking the wall thing might be childish, but it certainly made me feel better. Naruto, I don't think the doctors will appreciate it if you kick out their wall, Kakashi informed me sternly. Tough, I grumbled, although I did stop and swing my legs over the bed towards him, feeling hopeful. Did ya manage to get me out of here? He shifted position slightly. Well, I did manage to convince them that it might not be a bad idea to let me borrow you for a couple of hours, he admitted. Yes. I sprang off the bed in an instant, suddenly feeling jittery and full of energy as all the bounce I hadn't been allowed to work off over the last week bubbled to the surface. I love you, Sensei. Thank you. Yes. If I had to guess at the half-second of silence, Kakashi was rolling his eyes. Come with me, he said lightly. I followed him happily, not particularly minding his gentle hand on my shoulder steering me out of the complex. Anything was better than the hospital. Kakashi eventually let me go in one of the training grounds, I'm not sure which one. Okay, kiddo, he said brightly. If you're so sure that you're fully healed, let's see what you can do. You still want to fight in the Chunin exam? Prove to me that you're not going to get yourself killed. He swiped his hand close to my face, and I twitched back. My eyes automatically followed the trail of his fingers before I could stop them, and he asked, Naruto, can you see my hand? For several seconds I didn't answer, not quite wanting to say it aloud. Then, quietly, no. How are you following it, then? I can hear the air moving, and I track it. Can you read this out to me, please? I frowned warningly as I gingerly took hold of the book. This had better not be your porn novel again, Sensei. But a quick skim later, I figured out it was actually about fishing, of all things, and read the extract without any problem. You are so weird, Sensei, but this is better than the porn, so I won't complain. Not loudly, anyway. Can you form the 12 zodiac hand seals for me? This was the kind of thing I could handle. Snake, rat, ram, monkey, ox, horse, dragon, dog, boar, bird, rabbit, tiger. Easy. Can you show me a henge? I flinched, then transformed into Irika. Picture perfect. You have a good memory, Naruto. I grinned a little, then changed into Sasuke, complete with bored expression. Kakashi chuckled a little. Kawarimi? Only if I know where the thing I'm swapping with is. Then, just to tease him, I switched positions with him, laughing a little when he yelped. And if I take it by surprise? I grinned. It felt good to show off one of the few skills I was good at. What about Bunshin? I smiled innocently. What about Kage Bunshin? A dozen of me flared into existence around us, and Kakashi muffled a snort. What? I can't do Bunshin. Sasuke says I just fry them. I'll have a word to Irika about that. Walk up a tree. Ha! I frowned, but walked to the nearest tree that I remembered brushing against as we came out here and walked up its trunk with no trouble at all. The water walking I'd done yesterday had helped already, strangely enough. Kakashi-sensei, I did this with my eyes closed when I first learnt this, so I dunno what you're proving. Teachers are weird, aren't we just? Come down from there and throw a kunai at the tree, aim for the middle. That wasn't hard, I had the tree pinpointed on my internal map now, so it was no problem at all. HM. Kakashi seemed to be thinking, and I waited until he spoke up again. Follow the kunai I throw and try to hit the same spots I do. Another easy exercise, this one was one of the earliest ones I had ever worked on, once I could hold a kunai right. I threw swiftly in the instant Kakashi's weapon was sinking into the wood and there were either echoing clangs as they hit his kunai or the softer thuds when they missed and hit the wood nearby, my aim not being quite perfect. But I never missed the actual tree, so? How was that? I asked when he stopped throwing. That was good, Naruto. Let's take a break now, okay? What, are you tired already? I teased him, but wandered to the shade of one of the trees and leaned against it, slinging my arm over a low branch and staring blindly up at a sky I couldn't see. I wasn't even breathing harder, this was little more than a warm-up for me. Kakashi-sensei's life signs were all perfectly normal, so I knew this was easy for him, too. If it wasn't, I'd be petitioning for a new teacher. Geez. I took a deep breath and let it out, relaxing. Kakashi was checking me, seeing how well I could operate. He wasn't trying to talk me out of being a ninja, had even stopped trying to talk me out of the third exam. He'd probably do that later, I admitted thoughtfully, but really, this hadn't turned out half as bad as I'd thought it would. Once I got out, the very second I got out of the hospital, things started looking up. After a long, peaceful silence, I spoke up, nervously. Sensei. Yes, Naruto. He replied. Would you? This was difficult to word right. What if he said no? Would you mind if I touched your face? He was probably frowning a little. What for? This could be interesting to try and sell. Well. I fidgeted a little, tipping my head away as if to avoid his eyes. I can't, really, when I touch things, I know what they look like. But things from before. I don't really remember. The visual stuff. I guess it didn't really take. But I can't really remember what you look like, and, well, I guess I don't like that. I stayed quiet for a few seconds in the face of his silence, then ducked my head sheepishly. Sorry, Sensei, it's okay, I was just. It's fine, Naruto, Kakashi-sensei interrupted, moving closer to me and either kneeling or sitting on the grass in front of me. I was just a little surprised, that's all. He gently touched one of my hands, then lifted it to the side of his face. His skin was faintly warm under my fingers, and for a second I held still, memorizing his skin texture, before I let my hands skim over his face, a little shyly. True to Sasuke's word, Sensei wore his Hitai-8 over his left eye, the cold metal making my fingers tingle. His nose was perfectly straight, never been broken, and I locked his features into my memory as a map of touch that counted as pictures now. Kakashi-sensei was wearing a mask, I now knew, cotton from the feel of it. Sasuke had told me it was navy blue. Hey Sensei, this feels kind of thick. Are you wearing two masks? You are one weird kid, Kakashi said lightly. I stuck out my tongue and gingerly patted at his hair. Geez, Sasuke was right, to finish my mental image. I dropped my hand away from my teacher's face and smiled. Thanks, Sensei. So you remember me now? Kakashi-sensei teased, and I pouted playfully at him. You're easy to forget, I said loftily. Kakashi-sensei laughed and his clothes rustled as he spun and settled himself on the ground next to me, instead of in front of me. He leant back against the tree as well and there was a moment of expectant silence. Eventually Kakashi spoke up. You climbed that tree perfectly, earlier. But how did you know it was there? I blinked in confusion, then figured out what he wanted. I remembered it from when we walked in, I brushed against it, so I knew where it was. You remembered it? Well enough to climb it, and hit it dead center with a projectile? Yeah, I said, a little uncomfortably. But, Sensei, that's normal stuff for ninja. It's not that hard. Would you, say, be able to throw kunai at the spots we were aiming for before? My teacher asked calmly, and I shrugged, then threw several kunai in response. There were 3 clangs, making me raise my eyebrows, impressed with my own accuracy, and the rest of them hit wood. Hey, that was pretty good, I remarked. I think they were all fairly close, and 3 hit dead on. How do you know that? Kakashi asked, and I blinked at him. Ah. Sensei, I don't understand, I just heard it. I heard 3 kunai hit 3 of the ones in the tree and the others hit the tree fairly close. Heck, one of them brushed up against another as it went in. Yes, I know. How did you hear that? There was a long pause as I contemplated this. Sensei. As far as I'm aware, sound is made of lots of vibrations that travel through the air. A tiny drum in your ear, which makes no sense, by the way, picks up the vibrations and sends them to your brain, where the brain works out what you're hearing. I hear the sounds of the kunai hitting the tree, or each other, and my brain translates that into direct hit or sort of miss. Sensei, it's normal. Get over it. Please. You're starting to scare me. He chuckled slightly. I'm sorry, Naruto. But you said you tracked my hand by hearing? How can you do that? Human ears aren't that sensitive. Most of them aren't, but remember Sensei, I'm weird, I pointed out to him. And, only part of it is hearing. I can feel the air moving too, when you're that close. Ah, of course. He sounded calm and pleased. Alright, kiddo, up you get. Time for round 2. There was a tangible shift in the air as I guessed Sensei was actively trying to forget every single time one of the doctors had told him not to push me, and I felt him smile at me. Okay, Naruto, we're going to have a spar. Kunai, shuriken and other such tools allowed, but no lethal force, alright? I nodded to show that I understood him, and slid into an attack stance, breathing deeply and forcing the sound of my own heartbeat to the edge of my awareness. I didn't need to be distracted here. I waited for Kakashi-sensei to make the first move as I mentally took stock of the few supplies the doctors had either failed to confiscate or that I had stolen back. Sensei started it off with a simple swipe that was easy to dodge, and my counter was blocked almost nonchalantly by my teacher. I scrambled away from several counter punches, about half of them clipping my shoulders and the last one barely skimming my chest, but I'd skipped backwards just in time. My legs were nearly jerked out from under me by an unexpected blow to the ankle, and I flipped backwards and away, using the move I'd been practicing before the Chunin exams had started. I nearly got it, too, only stumbling a little on impact instead of almost cracking my skull open. I took a steadying breath, refusing to let myself get annoyed by my inability to land a blow. Kakashi-sensei was faster than me, and plenty stronger, and I was willing to say he was smarter, too. But that didn't mean I was going down without a fight. I started off round 2, going for a quick series of punches intended to distract my sensei and kicking viciously from below, aiming for ankles and shins. I would have gone for the somewhat delicate knee, but couldn't reach without unbalancing myself, which was a no-no, and not letting up until I failed to block one of his counters. The strength behind the blow sent me rolling over the ground. I scrambled to my feet as quickly as I could, barely sparing time to cough for breath. Sensei was just closing in on me again when I suddenly sneezed, loudly, and he paused for a half-second, one that let me get my bearings enough to parry a couple of his punches without hurting myself. He backed off briefly and I took advantage of the respite, considering going for one of my tags or maybe a kunai. I knew he was easily fast enough to stop me from doing that if I tried, but I still had to try, or this was so over. Kakashi-sensei wasn't even breathing hard, I thought with annoyance, although his heartbeat, faint by distance, was just a fraction faster than before. Ha! Come on, Naruto, you can do better than this. Sensei scoffed as he came in close again, and I took a risk and made a snatch for my kunai pouch. He didn't try to stop me and I blocked his knife with my own, feeling a tingle of relief that I'd managed to grab it after all. This fight was much more difficult than any I'd faced with my team before, except for maybe the Forest of Death. Here I had a vague idea of terrain, wasn't tree climbing, and wasn't under attack by a crazed lunatic with a sword and more dirt clones than you could poke a stick at, but I also didn't have Sasuke at my back, warning me of things to watch out for, didn't have Sakura as our backup on the sidelines. I was almost surprised that I'd come to rely on the fangirl Kunoichi, and my confidence had taken a bit of a pounding by everyone insisting I couldn't be a ninja anymore. So it stung a lot when Sensei shouted at me, "Come on, Naruto. Has losing your eyesight made you a weakling? My mouth tightened and I shifted my hands into the cross seal, forcing chakra through my fingers and barely mouthing the words, Kage Bunshin, before finding myself surrounded by a mass of clones. Not as many as I'd made in that fight with Kiba in the prelims, but that one was an accident. We converged on my teacher with a roar, a couple of clones getting in actual hits before being dispelled, but even the great Kakashi-sensei could suffocate under the dogpile of doom, and as such had the smarts to kawari me out. Unfortunately for him, me and my clones all tracked him, and some of them even got off a volley or two of shuriken before being speared by Sensei's kunai. Ooh, that one must have hurt. I heard a faint rustle of clothing, Sensei muttered something and his chakra flared. I thought I heard Doton, and it felt like that too, then it split off and he was underground and he was standing and watching me from the trees. Shadow clone. He had never used this jutsu with me around before, and it was weird. I felt faint vibrations from the ground underneath me through my shoes and I could hear him moving. How the hell does that jutsu work? And I put my hand to the ground with a frown. I had 3 clones keeping an eye on Kakashi's Kage Bunshin and a 4th shadowing it, just in case, and to warn me if it made a move at any point. The vibrations made a little more sense to my sensitive fingers, and I pinpointed my sensei with something approaching ease, his extremely muffled life signs supporting my guess. Me and my clones all skipped back, away from Kakashi-sensei's line of attack, and my mind spun through several jumbled methods, trying to figure out how to catch him off guard. He changed directions suddenly, headed straight for a patch of clones, and with yelps we all dove aside, backing away from the underground ninja warily. Then, for no reason, he turned and went in another direction, away from any or all of us, and I frowned, trying to think why. I followed at a safe distance, wondering suspiciously what he was playing at. Batty-sensei, I swear. This little game of follow the underground leader continued for about 5 minutes, with Kakashi-sensei moving all around our training area and me and a selection of clones trailing him suspiciously, scrambling back whenever he turned on us and hoping to somehow get lucky. How the hell do you attack someone who's underground, anyway? Then suddenly, he burst from the ground about 10 meters in front of me. I let out a yell and sprang backwards, holding up a kunai to defend as 4 clones who'd rushed at him were dispelled. Hold up, Naruto. Time out. I slowly lowered my kunai, raising an eyebrow at my teacher. Did you just call time out? I asked incredulously. Yes. Yes, I did. I shook my head at him but didn't argue, taking several deep breaths and trying to cool the adrenaline in my blood a little. The energy high was making me dizzy. Kakashi-sensei released his clone, the chakra signature flashing out of existence, and with barely a pause he turned back to me. Naruto, how were you tracking me down there? I shrugged, considering putting my kunai away and deciding to hold on to it. I heard you. You heard me. How? Now I groaned, turning my head to him in exasperation. Sensei, we've been through this. He chuckled a bit at that, and I glared. Sorry, Naruto, but I need to know how you were tracking me, what you were listening for and so on. Oh. I thought on it for a few seconds, then explained, well, I heard you moving, and, well, felt, too. I could feel the vibrations and I could tell where you were, but I wasn't sure. That's not exactly a precise way of searching. I listened for your heartbeat and breathing. I'm fairly sure Kakashi raised an eyebrow at that, and I could easily imagine his touch map face shifting in my mind. You can hear my heartbeat? Even underground? Well, it was kind of muffled, but it was still there, you know? And your breathing was louder. I'd know your breathing pattern anywhere, sensei, and I could follow that, cos. I frowned and bit my lip. How'd I hear it? When you get closer it gets a bit louder, and more underneath me when you're using that jutsu. When you're further off it's fainter, and more like you're just lying on the ground as opposed to buried alive. Which is really creepy, by the way. For a few moments my teacher was silent, just long enough for me to start getting bored and consider the merits of juggling the kunai I was carrying, before he said cheerfully, alright, Naruto, I think that's enough for today. Let's head back. Ah, man, already? I complained instantly, not ready to go back to overpowering cleanliness, boredom, and continuous poking. But Kakashi-sensei, come on, Naruto, you don't want to hurt yourself this early. It'll give the doctors more excuses. Sensei, I'm fine. We were only working for, like, half an hour. It's been nearly an hour and a quarter. It's time to go in. I groaned as Sensei steered me back towards the hospital, wriggling and complaining and trying to talk my way out of it the whole time. Man, what did I have to do to escape permanently, kill someone? Or maybe maul a few and leave their body parts on the reception desk as proof of checkout. And if Kyubi was leaking that much, I was really tired. Chapter 16, Dependable. Attention, Hitaki Kakashi. Memo, Kakashi, I have become aware that the paperwork concerning the withdrawal of your student Uzumaki Naruto from the Chunin exam is still conspicuously absent. Please rectify this mistake. Signed. Sandame Hokage. Attention, Sandame Hokage. Memo, after an extensive session in which I tested Uzumaki Naruto's capabilities, I have found him suitably competent enough to exclude the option of his forced withdrawal from the exam. I will not be pushing the issue, as I have no need of that headache, and the brat is quite stubborn on this matter. I believe he is, for the present, compensating for his lack of sight by relying on his hypersensitive hearing and possible enhanced other senses. Naruto has had training of some form to teach him to function blind, though I have yet to find his teacher. Refer to report of blindfold mission. As such, he is currently coping, and I have no reason to remove him from his earned place in the finals. If you still want to kick him out, you tell the brat. Bring earplugs, he's loud for a hypersensitive knucklehead. Signed. Hitaki Kakashi. Attention, Uzumaki Naruto. Memo, Naruto, sorry I couldn't tell you this in person, but I'm in a rush. You know me, busy. You've been released from the hospital, not because you finished your physio, but because the medics are cross after that incident last week that we all know you were responsible for. Anyway, the Hokage wants you to move in with someone for a while until you find your feet, just someone to help you with the boring everyday stuff that you may have to relearn entirely now, harsh as that sounds. So, pick someone, move in. Sasuke's acceptable but not ideal, because he's a kid too. You're welcome at my place, or Irika-sensei's. Gai-sensei has also graciously offered you a room in his apartment. I'll be back this weekend, and I'll bring Sasuke with me, he's been pining for you, it's really very cute. Make up your mind by then, and we'll move you this Sunday, okay? Signed. Hitaki Kakashi. Attention, Sandame Hokage, Hitaki Kakashi. Memo, so how does this memo thing work? I just talk, and you write down whatever I say and send it to sensei. And the old man? Dude, your job sucks. But you must know, like, everything. Oh, right, the memo. Sasuke, what am I supposed to say? Oh, yeah. I don't need to move, I'm okay living on my own. But, like, thanks for the offer and junk. Sasuke was crashing with me for a while, but I kicked his ass out, and I'm fine. Promise. So, yeah. No to the whole move in with someone thing. That's it. What? Oh, okay, I just need to sign it. And you'll send it to the old man and Kakashi-sensei? Why can't I just tell them this, anyway? Oh, right, okay, I'll sign. Signed. Uzumaki Naruto. Kakashi's log. Something is not sitting right with me about Naruto. He's too confident, too at ease. More than that, I found no signs of even suppressed grief for the loss of his sight. Sure, he seems to be deluding himself into thinking this is some sort of long-term blindfold training, but there should still be something. Who was it who taught him how to function without his sight in the first place? And why on earth did whoever that was think it was necessary? Yet again, this train of thought has led me to the familiar territory of none of my damn business. I'll have to keep my mouth shut and my eyes open, and hope that Naruto will trust me enough to tell me the truth. Until then, I'll try not to gag when swallowing his stories. A drop of water landed on my outstretched hand, and I couldn't help jumping slightly in surprise as the icy water shocked the skin, slowly heating to a natural, almost undetectable temperature. Water droplet. Another struck my elbow and a chill flushed through my shirt in patches, and I listened to the unsteady pattering that was increasing in intensity as startled mutters from nearby people alerted me to the fact that it was starting to rain. I smiled faintly to myself, thinking, better get home. This shower's been building up for days, I'll be soaked through in seconds if I don't get back in time. I darted through the rapidly emptying streets with the ease of long practice, dodging people and avoiding the edges of buildings. It was easier to travel now, but I didn't really get why. People had generally stopped throwing things at me or trying to trip me in the street now, although that probably had something to do with the fact that I was usually out with Kakashi-sensei or Sasuke these days. Scary glares, I'm telling you. Icy water was flecking my skin rapidly now, and the beginnings of puddles scattered under my sandals as I sprinted down the pathway, heading for home as quickly as I could manage. The people around me were all evacuating for the safety of nearby homes or shops to wait out the ensuing rainstorm, but I was nearly at my apartment now, just this last block, and then up the stairs. The rain was heavy, water starting to soak my hair and clothing. Loudly raindrops attacked the buildings around me, creating a series of distracting echoes that made me slip and stumble as my mind tried to reconcile the pictures I was getting with the images I was expecting. Even the ground seemed to be shifting under the constant barrage of water. Every freezing cold droplet that struck my exposed skin created a tiny wave of shock, and by the time I scrambled through my apartment block doorway, I was shivering. I hate rain. Stumbling up the stairs before the annoying landlady could yell at me for tracking water, I could still hear rain attacking the glass panes of the windows. I was very glad I'd shut my window this morning. The thickness of the air had made it so hard to breathe. If it hadn't rained today, I'd probably have suffocated overnight. Would you like some air mixed in with that water? Very humid. Was there a point in there somewhere? Oh yes, the rain. I don't mind light rain, the drizzly stuff that most people hate. I like that, tingly and cool like dew. But I hate heavy rain. Distracting, echo y. W-S-I-T-O. I sneezed, making the neighbor's fluffy cat let out an indignant yowl as it shot up the stairs ahead of me. And, of course, the chills. Shouldn't matter with a fire demon in my belly, right? Well, as I've discovered over the course of many years of contact, he likes to annoy me. Oh, don't get me wrong, he won't let me get sick, he won't have such a weak vessel having control of his power, but he knows how much sneezes hurt, and how they screw with my senses, and laughs gleefully from the back of my head. Shooting a mental bird at the sniggering fox demon, I sneezed again, grabbing hold of the doorframe so that I didn't stumble and hit my head in the ensuing dizziness. Where did I put my keys? I searched my pockets, racked by intermittent sneezes, as wind and rain howled against the sides of the building, and I could swear I felt the structure shifting under the onslaught, shifting, sliding, crumpling, collapsing. My hand closed around the jagged metal of the key and the sounds of splintering wood and screeching metal vanished from my mind. Fitting the key in the lock and muttering vague curses under my breath, I let myself into my apartment, brushing past the door and navigating the room with ease. There were a couple of random boxes I couldn't remember placing that I tripped over, but that was normal. I shook myself off, water flying everywhere, and sneezed again, swearing aloud at the cubie's laughter. Damn sadistic fox. I changed into dry clothing quickly, rain pounding against the thin walls of my apartment. I was just considering what to have for dinner, instant ramen, air and water or instant ramen, when I felt a tiny flicker of something at the back of my mind. Putting it down to annoying fox, I continued shuffling through the kitchen and poking ramen packets, only to find myself freezing up as there was a faint crack, and then an explosion followed by a harsh snarling rumble. Thunder roared overhead, making the very building shake, and I felt vibrations tingling through my body as the heaviness in the air drove into my eardrums. There was pressure on my lungs and I felt my heartbeat quivering. The thunder died rapidly, leaving my ears ringing in the relative silence of a howling rainstorm. I staggered backwards, shaking and gasping for breath and tripping over something on the floor that hadn't been there a second ago, must have been knocked down in the thunder, couldn't hear, couldn't feel. Gods, I hated thunder. Shuddering, I forced a couple of choking breaths through my lungs, putting my hand against the wall, vaguely noting that the cubie had finally killed my sneezes. Damn fox, has to be good for something, I guess. I flinched and stiffened, my heart racing uncontrollably as a second burst of thunder barked loudly, the sound a whip crack or massively slamming door to my ears. I hate thunder, always have. What other people consider noisy and exciting is painful and downright terrifying for me. Loud noises never bode well, and thunderstorms make my head ache and my chest hurt and my ears start to ache from the pressure. I like a bit of light rain. But thunderstorms suck. Pathetic human, Cubie sneered, and I shook my fist uselessly at the demon, only to sneeze again. Afraid of a sound, can't even keep your own chakra under control, can't take a bit of water. Like you're one to talk on the water thing, I retorted sharply. Be useful or be quiet. There was a growl, and then silence. The fox had gone to sulk. I sneered back at him, baring my teeth to an empty apartment, only to gasp and jerk at a fresh bellowing peal of thunder exploding right overhead. I could feel it, the floor was trembling, I could hear my window rattling, I was shaking with the force of it. I slid down a wall I hadn't realized I was leaning on for support to sit on the floor with a strangled sound. I hate storms. Kakashi scanned the drenched street with a sharp eye, gray sheets of rain shuddering across the concrete as the rainstorm attacked nearby structures with the ferocity of wild animals. The odd flicker of orange kept catching his attention, but there was no sign of his young student, even as a fresh squall of wind blew icy stinging drops into his face. Naruto! The Jounin's head swung around, his eye instantly picking up the blue shadow sprinting through the downpour, and headed towards him. Sasuke! He shouted, catching up to the genin in a few long-legged strides. Both ninja winced reflexively as thunder growled angrily overhead, and as he realized the close proximity of his sensei the Uchiha stumbled to a halt and doubled over, struggling for air. Have you seen Naruto? He gasped out, sucking in precious oxygen as he stared desperately at the silver-haired man through his own dark, waterlogged bangs. Kakashi shook his head quickly, his heart rate quickening as his mind started to produce several highly unpleasant scenarios. Why? Has something happened? Is he? Another peal of thunder drowned out the remainder of his last sentence, bolts of lightning searing the dark clouds overhead and supercharging the air. Sasuke shook his head helplessly, still gasping, and managed to sputter, thunderstorms, he hates them. Noise, can't think, gets scared, always has. Kakashi already knew Naruto's uncomfortable reaction to loud sounds, could guess how the deafening rumbles would hurt his hypersensitive ears, and it wasn't at all difficult to imagine his student huddled in the thundering rain, blind and terrified. The Jounin shoved the mental image away and focused on the sopping wet Sasuke he had managed to steer under a shop hanging. Where did you see him last? He shouted over the din hammering against the roof. Have you checked his apartment yet? No. The dark-haired boy shouted back, still breathing deeply but no longer gasping. I was just on my way. He was out in the markets, looking for Sakura, I think. Eloquent but quiet cursing escaped Kakashi's lips as he quickly traced several hopefully likely spots for his blonde genin to be sheltering. We'll go check his apartment first, and keep an eye out for him along the way. Lightning flashed again and thunder drowned out Sasuke's agreement, but both ninja darted away through the storm as the skies roared their fury above them. Kakashi let Sasuke take the lead, allowing the worried genin to lead him to the right floor and apartment number. He already knew where Naruto lived, but Sasuke was bordering on frantic as he checked the door, unlocked, and shoved it open. The room was dark, lit by no more than the occasional burst of lightning visible through the cracks in the shuttered window. Sasuke stepped forward straight away, one hand hitting the nearby table, while the pair of them waited for their eyesight to adjust. Kakashi knew the darkened room didn't mean much, because as depressing as the thought was, the light wouldn't matter to Naruto. Light or no light, he was still unable to see. A rasping breath of air caught both ninjas' attention and in an instant they were focusing dark-adjusted eyes on the shadows of the floor. Sasuke moved first, kneeling next to the small figure that Kakashi suddenly realized was Naruto, curled up in a little ball on the unpolished wood of his apartment floor. He looked smaller than ever, trembling and flinching defensively at every crack of sound that burst from the clouds. Slowly, Kakashi moved to kneel on the other side of his student as Sasuke spoke reassuringly to his frightened teammate, one hand on his shoulder. Naruto, can you hear me? It's okay, we're here, it's okay, I promise. Can you hear me, Naruto? The blonde flinched at the first contact, but the familiar sound of his best friend's voice made him start to uncurl from his protective ball, raising his head enough for his visitors to see his sightless, blankly scared eyes. Sasuke? He said softly, dull eyes wandering aimlessly around a room he couldn't see. Sensei? What are you two doing here? Are you okay, Naruto? Kakashi asked instead of answering, fingers brushing at the blonde fringe and carding through Naruto's damp, unruly hair, his other hand inspecting a small cut on his right cheek. Through the contact, the teacher could feel his genin shivering violently. It's okay now, he promised softly. We're here. Blue eyes blinked in confusion even as Naruto allowed his teacher to help him off the floor and guide him to the bed. Another volley of thunder echoed, close enough to shake the walls, and Naruto cried out, jerking closer to the Jounin as if to shelter against him. Kakashi found himself holding this small, terrified child close to his chest, rubbing his back in an attempt to calm him down. Sasuke stepped close, looking a little resigned and a lot understanding, and placed his hands firmly on Naruto's shoulder blades. Naruto, he said steadily. It's okay. You're safe. You trust us, don't you? We're here to keep you safe, Sensei. Kakashi yelped, stumbling away from the window that had just lit up with a fantastic flash of light, accompanied by the terrifying explosion of thunder. To a ninja, even a ninja in training, that sound represented far too many things, most of them painful, all of them bad. The blonde teenager who was the 5-year-old's mentor was amused, but trying very hard not to show it. "It's okay, Kashi," he said soothingly, yanking the small silver-haired child onto his lap and ignoring the indignant squeak. "Shoo. I know the thunder's scary, but it's okay. I'm not scared," the child mumbled, trying to pretend he wasn't shivering. He found himself being hugged quietly by his teacher, the gentle voice whispering in his ear, "It's okay, Kashi. Trust me. I won't let it hurt you. It's okay. I'll keep you safe." Kakashi blinked as Naruto jerked again, thunder rattling the shutters, and sighed faintly as Sasuke settled on the Jinchuriki's other side, ready to weather the storm. "I'm not sure exactly when I woke up." The soft, comforting blackness of sleep gave way at some stage to warm safety, the transition so slight I took at least half an hour to acknowledge the change. Even once I figured out I was awake, I didn't move, quietly content in the feeling of being safe. Usually, the cold, unforgiving air of an empty apartment pressed down on me until I moved, or bitter, unfriendly wisps of dawn breeze stirred. In the hospital it was even worse, too clean and impersonal, and if not for the drugs they'd kept me on I probably wouldn't have slept at all, too wary of my surroundings. So I lay still, feeling passively protected and undisturbed, warmth suffusing from all around me. I was hearing breathing and heartbeats that weren't mine, but the knowledge wasn't distressing, and I didn't react, waiting for my mind to struggle out of sleep to identify them. Eventually, I managed to gain access to enough of my sleep-fogged memories to realize Sasuke was against my back, barely on the edge of the bed, and Kakashi-sensei was on my other side, wedged against the wall. Wah! Why are these two here? There was a pained groan and the bed creaked worryingly as Kakashi-sensei sat up. I didn't move, already aware that both he and Sasuke were awake, but not yet willing to wake up myself. "God, that bed is uncomfortable," he grumbled quietly, shifting with obvious discomfort. I heard a faint crack from one of his joints, and he grunted, before the dying mattress shifted slightly from under me. He'd stood up. "Is there any coffee here?" "Yeah," Sasuke mumbled, "middle cupboard, top shelf, behind the blue boxes. New tin. I'm the only one who drinks it." I heard a faint clatter as Sensei started to move around the kitchen. That scrick-clack was the sticky cupboard door jerking open, the tinkling of a full tin of something. That crash would be him dropping the kettle on the counter. "These shelves look rather empty," Kakashi commented, his voice carrying quietly enough from the kitchen area that I didn't need to twitch. "Nothing but instant ramen." "Is he due to get groceries?" Sasuke yawned, but didn't sit up. "Not sure. But, Sensei, he doesn't usually have much more than instant ramen anyway." There was a pause. "He loves his ramen, huh?" Kakashi remarked. Clothing rustled, Sasuke must have shrugged. "He does," my friend said slowly. "But, Sensei, I don't really think he can afford much. Ramen's, like, the only thing he can buy enough of to actually fill him up. You know how much he eats." "Surely it's not that bad," Sensei protested, a spoon clinking against a mug as the strong smell of coffee made my nose crinkle just slightly. I hadn't heard the kettle boil. "I mean, he gets a monthly allowance, just like all the other orphans in Konoha. Naruto doesn't buy clothes or shoes on a monthly basis, so he should have more than enough for food." I restricted a wince, suddenly glad that I was still technically asleep and, like any good friend, leaving Sasuke completely to fend for himself before our nosy sensei on a topic I hated discussing. I could hear and feel Sasuke shifting uncomfortably beside me. "Well, yeah, that's true, Sensei, but, well, it's just, sometimes they forget." I could have sworn I felt the air temperature drop 10 degrees instantaneously. Shivering, I snuggled deeper into my blankets, unwilling to wake up. Awareness or no, I was still very much out of it, and happy that way. Then I realized something and restricted a gag. EW. These blankets reek. EW, need to wash them. ASAP. They forget? Ha. It sounded like Sensei was gritting his teeth. That was weird. Sasuke's answer was subdued. Yeah. I sometimes bring him stuff, extra blankets, kunai, stuff. Even that coffee's mine, I stashed it here to help me wake up. Okay, that was way true. Sasuke bunks here sometimes, but he is definitely not a morning person. 2 hours is his best waking time without coffee. And then he was grumpy for the rest of the day. I never hid the coffee again. There was a clink as Sensei put down his coffee mug, and I listened sleepily to his footsteps as he began to stride around the room, seeming agitated. I heard cupboards open and close, and winced when the wardrobe door fell off in his hand, the corner hitting the floor with a distinctive thunk. Stupid thing was always coming off. Sensei was flicking through my clothes, orange shirt, Sasuke's shirt, but abandoned that and walked over to the sink. I heard the tap squeak as he turned the knobs with some difficulty. After a long moment, I heard my teacher whirl around. "He doesn't have hot water?" he shouted. I winced as the temperature plummeted again, and decided that now was a very good time to get up. I wanted my jacket anyway. My blanket was apparently too thin if I was this cold. Sasuke had sat up at some stage. I was confused to realize I didn't know quite when, trying to explain to our angry teacher. It's not his fault. The pipe cracked a while back, and no one's come to fix it yet. Sensei went very, very still, the distinct rustles of his clothing and hidden weaponry silenced. "How long?" he said quietly. I finally managed to work up the energy to sit up from the bed, glancing around and trying to remember where I'd put my jacket last night, and I still didn't know why Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke were here. "Morning, Sensei, saw." I yawned. "Okay, not fully awake yet." "Sasuke. What are you two doing here, anyway?" I mumbled as I wriggled free of my clingy blanket and landed on the floor with a thump. Ow! I hate it when that happens. "Naruto, pack up your things. You're coming home with me," Kakashi-sensei said flatly, and I was suddenly made very much aware of the waves of furious killer intent seeping from him. "Okay. I am so awake now. Kakashi-sensei, I don't know what I did, but whatever it was I'm very sorry and I won't do it again," I said quickly, the angry promise of death that I was sensing making me nervous. I heard him snatch a breath, and the Ki went up a notch as he said, "You haven't done anything, Naruto, but I need you to pack your stuff." "It's okay." It didn't sound okay. I'd never heard or sensed Kakashi-sensei this angry before. Sometimes he'd let out a little bit of killer intent, like at Zabuza, or at a medic Nin who annoyed him, but nothing like this. "Sensei, you're scaring me," I said in a low voice. As soon as I said it he took a deep breath and the Ki died away as he made an obvious effort to calm down. "Sorry, Naruto," he said evenly. "I'm not mad at you, I promise. But you need to pack up your things and come with me, alright?" Then, under his breath, something I probably wasn't meant to hear, if I had known. I frowned, even as I followed Sasuke tamely around the apartment, finding the things that I actually needed or that I wouldn't leave behind even when we went out of the village, cramming them all into my backpack. Where had I put my ink pots? Fridge, that's right, I was testing a chakra theory. No, I had a stack of seals in there cooling, the ink pots were hidden on top of the coffee cupboard. My brushes, good question. Sasuke? I asked, once Sensei had left the apartment and shut the door rather more firmly than usual. Is this normal? Should Sensei be this angry? Well, yes and no, Sasuke admitted, folding something and shoving it in. I think he should be angry, but I also think he's overreacting a little. There's something a bit personal behind this. Oh. Right then. I should really get around to stealing his file. Yes. Yes, you should, Sasuke said firmly, and handed me my brushes. A silver-haired man in his late 20s stormed up the stairs of the Hokage Tower. Very few people even considered trying to stop him, and those that did, didn't try. The visible ANBU guards took one look and moved out of his way, allowing him access to the upper floors. The invisible ones pretended they hadn't seen him. Hatake Kakashi was on the warpath. The door to the Hokage's office slammed open, banging off the wall to close loudly behind the furious intruder. The Sandaime glanced up, unnerved by the volume of killer intent, and barely had time to say, "Kakashi, what on earth is," before the man exploded. No hot water, no real blankets, a bed that might as well have been a stone, no food. How dare you let this happen? He snarled, his voice loud enough to be dangerously near a shout. Sarutobi blinked. What on earth? He began, but was again cut off. I couldn't believe it, wouldn't have believed it unless I was actually there, looking around his apartment. If I had known you were going to do this to him, if I had known you were going to abuse him, I would have never agreed to keep my distance. Fuck, you're supposed to be the Hokage. You're supposed to protect your citizens. Damn it, Sarutobi, you were supposed to look after him. Kakashi broke off, his chest heaving, glaring daggers at the stunned old man. Sarutobi was startled to see that despite the overwhelming anger radiating from the Jounin in waves, Kakashi almost looked as if he were going to cry. The Hokage hadn't seen Kakashi like this since Minato had died. Kakashi, he said gently, choosing to ignore the impudence, disrespect and outright rudeness his ninja was displaying in making a mental note to have a chat with the invisible ANBU guards in the office, who all seemed to be pretending they could not see, hear or sense the murderous Hatake. I am afraid I do not understand. Who are you talking about? Apparently that was the wrong thing to say, as the killer intent went up another notch. Sarutobi hadn't thought it possible, and Kakashi drew himself up angrily before spitting, Naruto. Sarutobi was on instant alert. Naruto? Is he okay? What's wrong? Has he been hurt? Attacked? Is he injured? Where is he now? Kakashi stared at his leader as if seeing him for the first time. How can you be so, how is it you don't see what I'm talking about? He asked, his voice low and incredulous, a dangerous state for a ninja. Are you so convinced that I was never going to find out? Naruto is blind, not me. Sarutobi drew a quick breath at the harsh statement, but Kakashi wasn't done yet. Sarutobi, he has no food. His 12-year-old teammate Sasuke has been supplying blankets and kunai. Naruto, how could you do this to him? The shock on the old Hokage's face was painfully obvious as he finally realized exactly what Kakashi was saying. What? He stuttered, the first time Kakashi had ever heard him stumble over a word. What? You didn't know? Kakashi's anger was ebbing slightly, his voice calming. Sarutobi shook his head as if to clear it, gesturing Kakashi to sit down. No. Did Naruto tell you this? Kakashi shook his head, sinking into the offered chair. I stayed the night there with him, and Sasuke. This was the first storm since he was blinded. I figured thunder would be hard for him to cope with, so I went to check on him. He was frightened by the storm, and the only way I could calm him down was by holding him. Eventually he fell asleep, so I stayed the night. Sarutobi nodded to show that he was following, his fingers twitching in annoyance as he heard his ANBU guards breathe sighs of relief now that Kakashi had calmed down. Anyway, this morning I woke up and realized just how hard his bed was, like stone, and all lumpy too. Frankly, it'd be healthier sleeping on the floor. He had a single thin blanket that belonged to Sasuke. More than that, I went through his cupboards, there is nothing there. He has ramen, and a tin of coffee that Sasuke brought over, and a bottle of off milk. Oh, and half a loaf of stale bread. Sarutobi was looking more concerned with each passing second. Well, he does love ramen, he offered. Kakashi shook his head. Sasuke was there. According to him, Naruto eats ramen because it's all he can afford. Oh, he loves it, yes, but he can't actually buy enough of anything else to keep himself fed. Ramen is cheap. Apparently, the people who issue the orphan's monthly allowance sometimes forget to give him his. The Sandame's face was gray, his brow creased with worry. Forget? But, how could they think to? Sarutobi, Kakashi was pleased to see, was beginning to grow angry too. And, he continued, you know that apartment he has? Not only is it falling to bits, he has to pay a horrendous rent, and the landlady isn't even keeping up her end of the deal. His water pipe cracked 3 years ago, and no one's come to fix it. Sarutobi was shocked. Why didn't he say anything? He breathed. He seems to feel it's no big deal, Kakashi confided. He honestly didn't understand what I was upset about, he even apologized. Because he thought it was his fault that I was upset. Sir, he has nothing. Sarutobi shook his head. I will get to the bottom of this, he promised. I assure you, Kakashi, I had no idea. But I will see those responsible punished, severely. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Now. I'm not done, Kakashi interrupted. Sarutobi blinked, then raised an eyebrow, inviting him to continue. Naruto moved into my apartment this morning, he said flatly. As he should have 12 years ago. I will not let him leave, not now that he has not only suffered a crippling injury, but abuse all his life, too. I will care for him now. Sarutobi frowned. We tried to convince him to share living arrangements when he was first blinded, he reminded his jounin. But he refused. He would not even bunk with Sasuke, his best friend. How can you? I told him to come, and he came, Kakashi said simply. Easy. You can tell his landlady that she can re-rent out the apartment. And if she insists on him completing the contract, I'll pay it out. Redirect the orphan allowance into my account, we'll see if they forget to pay after that. I will ensure that Naruto gets everything he deserves. Sarutobi considered for a moment, then nodded, reaching into his desk for a paper and writing on it quickly. Very well. I hereby make you Uzumaki Naruto's official guardian. That does mean he won't get an orphan allowance any longer, but you shall receive a dependent allowance instead, basically the same thing, to provide for him. Look after him, Kakashi. Kakashi nodded once and stood to leave, but was stopped by the door as Sarutobi called out to him. Kakashi. The Hatake turned slightly. Sarutobi met his eyes and spoke seriously. I am sorry. After a brief moment, Kakashi nodded briskly and left, intent on returning to his student and, as of 2 minutes ago, new dependent. That's it for part 5. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.